Hey everyone, and welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons. Today, I'm very excited to share with you some technical pointers on folk-style finger-picking patterns. Now we're going to learn 3 different patterns that are going to help you to build dexterity or independence between the fingers on your right hand, and then also review some of my previous advice on Travis-style finger-picking. Let's get started. Okay, a close look at the fretboard and also my right hand. We're getting started by placing a C major chord shape with a capo here on the 4th fret. This way you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so our goal for today is to build dexterity or finger independence in your picking hand. To do this, we're going to learn 3 patterns, and they're going to get harder as we go. These patterns are going to use our Travis-style finger picking technique. That means that the thumb controls the E, A, and D strings, while the pointer, middle, and ring fingers control the G, B, and E strings. Okay, now we have a closer look at the right hand. We're getting started with pattern number 1, a basic arpeggio pattern. Sounds like this. Okay, so this is the easiest of the 3 patterns, and it really does go a long way in building your dexterity. Just drag the thumb down, as opposed to plucking it and lifting the thumb. So this is what we call a rest stroke. Index, middle, ring, middle, index, and back to middle. The B string finishes it up. That way we have a full measure to practice. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You practice that over and over again. Remember, 1,500 repetitions before something's muscle memory. So that'll be about a week of practice. That's not to say you can't move on to another pattern once you start to feel comfortable with your basic arpeggio. Okay, so you're making some progress with your basic arpeggio pattern. And you want to make it a little bit more interesting. Remember, the mark of a good instructor is someone who can conceal repetition. And you can do that for yourselves just by adding in a couple of other chords into the mix. C major, or even other variations of your C chord, like a C major 7. Just pop that first finger off for a more dreamy effect. Do a C add 9 by putting your pinky here on the B string, 3rd fret, or a C7. Play around with different chord forms, even A minor. An F major chord sounds beautiful, though you'll have to move your thumb up to the E string. Everything else will stay the same. And that's actually a very, very important element to fingerpicking. You gotta follow the roots with your thumb. So if you're going from C, alright, so your thumb would be on the A string because that's where the root is. But if you're doing an F chord, where the root is found here on the E string, you'll go E string with the thumb, D string, G string, B string, and high E string to perform that same pattern. A G major or G7 chord also sounds lovely. Okay, moving on to pattern number 2 with our C major chord. Once again, fret it. In this pattern, we're going to be maintaining a constant bass over each of your treble notes. It's going to sound like this. Okay, so that was 1 pluck of the C note on the A string for each of your treble notes. So that means we're going to be playing the A string, the G string, back to the A string, the B string, back to the A string, the E string. Notice how my fingers stayed down until they were ready to be called on. Then finally finished up with an A and a B. Quick pointer, it's very, very helpful to count as you play through these patterns. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and once you finish a pattern, reset and then start again. So it's very helpful to practice getting back to this shape. It's almost like putting a chord together. The thumb goes back to the root on the A string and the pointer, middle, and ring return back to the treble notes. Reset. Just like that. Okay, so now we're practicing that constant bass pattern over multiple chords. transition to F. And G, making sure to change the root to the E string. Okay, congrats to everyone who's made it this far. Real quick, before we move on to pattern number 3, I want to give you a tip. You'll know that you have this pattern down, or really any fingerpicking pattern, if you're able to maintain a conversation without losing the rhythm or the pattern. So practice these patterns until you're absolutely blue in the face. You have to get them in the muscle memory, and then try to hold down a conversation with somebody. Okay, with our C major chord fretted, we're ready for pattern number 3. This one's going to be using an alternating bass tune, making it the toughest one that we've learned yet. But with steps number 1 and 2 completed, you should be able to pick this up with relative ease. It's going to sound like this. Okay, so essentially this is exactly the same as pattern number 2. But for each note we have in the treble, we're going to alternate back and forth between A and D. For example, A, G, D, B, A, high E string, D, B string. Returning back just that way we have a full measure to work with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very important to count as you practice these patterns. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then start off at a slow tempo. After several repetitions, accelerate. Over many chords. Until you've mastered the pattern. Okay, so that alternating bass pattern can work very well in conjunction with other patterns that we've already learned. For example, your basic Travis style pattern, which in a previous lesson I broke down for you is very similar to a super basic fingerpicking pattern that we call outside inside. Taking any 4 strings, for example A, D, G, and B, plucking those that are on the outside with the thumb and middle finger, and then those that are on the inside with the thumb and pointer. Outside, inside, outside, inside. I wish someone had told me years ago that if you just take the first 2 notes of that pattern, pluck them together, and then continue on, you end up with a Travis style pattern. A pattern that's used in songs like Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. That pattern can be used in conjunction with our alternating bass pattern like this. Okay, congrats to everyone who's mastered these 3 patterns and also the bonus Travis style pattern. Real quick, one last bit of advice. Over my many years of teaching, I've found that fingerpicking can be very intimidating for many guitar players. I, for one, tried to jump right into Don McLean's Starry Night, and I failed miserably. So the real reason that a lot of guitar players fail to pick up these techniques is that there's a lot of prerequisites. We try to jump into the full Monty far too soon. So remember, there's always ways to learn these patterns using building blocks. You can start off with the very basic prerequisites and work your way up, like we did in this lesson, to something that's much more complicated. Don't be afraid of the repetition. Remember to conceal it as best you can by making the practice a little bit more interesting by throwing in other chord tunes. Before you know it, you'll be able to play these patterns with your eyes closed. Alright everyone, thanks so much for checking out this lesson on folk style fingerpicking. I hope you enjoyed it. I got plenty more videos coming up, so keep checking back. Please subscribe. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia saying happy picking.